of fall camp. So I guess we're kind of where we need to be right now as far as the college football world is concerned.
Yeah, as you said, the preseason top 25 came out, Brent. Anything surprise you at all or not?
Not really. The coaches' preseason top 25 is out. And again, we have to remember the coaches' poll is basically done by someone around the coach, and the coach probably signs off on it, is how that works. Now, what we need to also remember is on August the 16th, the Associated Press top 25 will come out, and both the coaches and the AP poll are usually done almost mirrored by the preseason magazines. As far as the coaches poll, pretty typical for the top five: Bama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Georgia. Cincinnati at a pretty robust number 10. Florida is 11. LSU is 13. Miami is 16. And then you've got Louisiana, which is Billy Napier. They've got an opener with Texas, which is going to be interesting. Then you've got Coastal Carolina in 25. You've got Ole Miss. So some respect there for the Rebels, but frankly, this is pretty much, Shane, what we've seen with the magazines throughout the summer.
Yeah, you're right. So, Brent, let me ask you this. You know, back in the day when Athlons and Lindy's and all that really mattered and preseason polls mattered, I thought they really don't mean a dang thing these days. With the 14 playoff, going to be a 12-team playoff, really has nothing to do. Preseason just for people to get excited, right?
It is. There's no doubt. I mean, we would be much better off if the coaches poll and the AP poll actually came out probably, Shane, halfway through the season or after 3 or 4 games, just to be able to know a little bit more about these teams than what we do. I mean, look, it's radio, television fodder. We enjoyed it and always will. You've got to have something, I guess, to go on. But it's probably really unfair to a lot of these teams to be ranked so high and then have, camp injuries or just some unfortunate things happen in their season go out from underneath them in a hurry. So, no, it's just more than anything else is conversation pieces right now.
Yeah. Brent, there's a big NCAA meeting that's going to happen in November. What is that all about, and who's going to be in this meeting?
The NCAA, the Board of Governors, want to come up with a different kind of constitution in November to kind of look and reflect the changes in sports. So what they've done is they've announced this week who is going to be on the committee. You've got presidents of schools. You've got a few ADs. You've got a few athletes. And you've got some commissioners. Well, look, you've got to have someone on this, and I get it. I think what's disappointing about this is you really don't have, from what I can tell here, any coaches, or certainly at least enough coaches. I don't get why you don't have that. And look, I'm not being disparaging of all these presidents, but let's just be honest. Athletics is not what most presidents deal with, or it's something they don't particularly care to deal with. But this is what they're trying to do. Part of this is they're trying to come up with some kind of a workable entity here that would, for instance, the Baylor, the sanctions were announced yesterday. Well, this took 5 years to get this done with Baylor. Mm-hmm. Now, you've got to come up with some kind of a situation, Shane, that when you've got a really difficult situation like this Baylor situation, you really need to be able to handle that within a year. And unfortunately, they probably don't have the personnel in order to do that. And in other words, by the time the sanctions come down, all the people involved, including Art Browse, who was a coach then, are gone. So what is really unfair here is by the end of that period of time, Shane, you're punishing people, and really the punishment wasn't that much, let's be honest, but you're punishing people who really were not even there, who were not even involved.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with that, and I don't know what the solution is when when schools break rules or have some kind of issues going on. The coach's whole staff gets fired. As you mentioned, the investigation takes place, takes a couple of years, and the kids, the people that are being punished are the kids that had nothing to do with it.
Right. Well, and look, Shane, we've still got these basketball investigations going on. For instance, Will Wade at LSU, who was caught on tape, basically offering this and that to basketball prospects. Wade's still the coach, and frankly, nothing's been done about that. So these are just situations to where if you're going to go out to all that trouble investigating someone, at some point you've got to have some kind of decision about it, and that remains to happen.
Yeah, and LSU, not only their basketball situation, but football has a lot of mess going on as well. We're speaking with Brent Beaird here on the Titan & More Hotline. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. This August, mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We'll be joined by former Gator defensive tackle on the national championship team, Stephen Harris, in the second portion of the program. All right, Brent, everybody's kicked off camp. Let's start first, Alabama. What's going on up there?
Yeah, I'll roll through several things here. The good thing is we got several notes on every team just about. Jahleel Billingsley, who's a really good tight end, is more of a wide receiver. It's not Kyle Pitts, but he's kind of that hybrid tight end. Was back at practice on Monday. He missed Friday's opening session. Billingsley's a really good player. Whatever was going on, they've got it cleared up. So this is an important year for Billingsley, and they're going to have some good tight ends. Cameron Latu is another one they really like. Now, LeBron Ray, who is a senior defensive lineman, is hurt once again. He has had a history of being hurt, so they're hoping he can come back. The kid's a refrigerator. He's 6'5", 300, and he's a behemoth. But the reality is he's never on the field for any length of time, so they're hoping to get him back. They're also hoping to get Trey Sanders back, who is a really good wide receiver, but he's had injury situations where he's never really got on the field. He's a 5-star running back coming out of high school, had a hip injury in a automobile accident last season, so he is looking better. Evan Neal, who may be the best offensive lineman in the nation, who's at Alabama, has dropped 15 pounds. He is 345 now. There was a video on Twitter about Evan Neal, who again is 345, who being able to jump up in the air and put his left foot on a box and his right foot behind him on another box. I mean, it was a move that a guy half his weight would have struggled with, but he was able to do it. And one more for Alabama, Xavier Ziggy Williams, who is a wide receiver, will miss the season due to a medical issue. We're not sure what the medical issue is, but Nick Saban said that last night. So he will not be playing this year, but Bama has depth at wide receiver.
We got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peter asks, he says, good morning. Does anyone have any idea of the lowest ranked preseason team to win the national championship? Got any idea on that, Brent?
Oh, yeah, that's a tremendous question.
I do. I heard this the other day. I want to say it was back in 2006, 2000, maybe not 2006, 2007. That's when we won the national title. It was that one year where Auburn, I don't know if they were preseason ranked or not, but if they were, it was really, really low. And they went undefeated. Who won the national title that year? I can't remember.
Now, what was that? That may have been, was that the two, was that when Southern Cal won it?
Yes.
And Auburn was involved with that. Also, now I also won't be surprised. You remember the year, and this is going back quite a ways. BYU did the same, and they may have been ranked really low too. Right now, that's probably more speculation. That's a tremendous question, frankly, to look up, and that's piqued my interest. I'll try to find that out.
There's a homework assignment for you, Brent.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, what's going on up in Arkansas?
Their offensive line, and we thought this would happen under Pittman, who was the offensive line coach at Georgia. They're projected 4 starters, or they've all gained 25 pounds. So they will be massive, to say the least. But one of the problems is their center has hurt his MCL, and that's Ricky Stroberg. So he will be out for a little bit. Fortunately, he didn't tear anything, but he did injure his MCL. I've never had that, Shane. I know you probably are familiar with it, but I understand even if you don't tear something like that, it can be very painful, correct?
Absolutely, it can. I tore my MCL like the third play in 1991 against Florida State. Third play of the game, kept playing somehow. Okay, so Brent, let's talk about the Auburn Tigers. I find them intriguing because when's the last time Auburn was not even in the preseason rankings? Nobody's really talking about them at all. Well,
because they have a new coach. There's so many unknowns at Auburn at this point. Devin Barrett, their senior defensive back, has transferred to Troy. They've also had a defensive lineman, Tyrone Truesdale, who started for a couple of years, who is no longer with the program. They do have Demetrius Robinson, who, remember, he transferred from Georgia. He is coming in. I think he had to clear up some academics at Georgia. Now, they've got 3 legacy guys. We know about Bo Nix, the son of Patrick Nix. They've got Shedrick Jackson, who is the nephew of Bo Jackson, and Kalen Newton, the brother of Cam Newton, which is interesting. Also, they were asked about who's the leader in the secondary. Coaching staff mentioned Roger McCrary, who they really like. He's a good player, 6 foot 190. Give you a little bit of insight on what's going on there real quick. Brian Harsin has come in, and he is just doing things differently than Gus Malzahn did. Gus was more of a player's coach, but Harsin is demanding more of these kids. He's trying to get them to be more accountable and responsible. Some of them don't like it, and some of them have moved on. But I mean, Shane, that's kind of the way it is, right? New coach comes in. He has players trying to do what he wants them to do, trying to hold them accountable, and it's different than what they've been used to, and some of them hit the transfer portal. We mentioned Truesdale a minute ago. I don't think that's happened with him yet, but that's the difference in Auburn. And again, remember, early in September, Auburn goes to Penn State, which would be a very difficult road game for them.
Yeah, we had some people look into that. It was the 2004 Auburn team. Southern Cal won the national title.
Yep.
Tim says, remember when grades would be a major concern for eligibility? You really never hear about that, honestly, anymore.
No.
And then Nat says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, I wonder how much Mr. Newton charged for the little brother to go to Auburn.
Some interesting rumors there. I will deal with the question about the grades real quick. Do you remember years ago when they had the Prop 48?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't call it that anymore, but we had a situation where you had a lot of prep schools that were involved, or kids went the junior college route. In other words, guys, just be honest with you, just couldn't qualify to get in, but there were various routes that they could go to try to get in. But you're right. You really don't, do you, Shane? I mean, I know there's a lot of academic stuff that goes on. They've still got to deal with it, but it's just a different situation in many ways than it used to be. But I will say this, because I still hear this from coaches, I bet you do too, is the reality. And I have probably a handful of fathers or players who call me every year asking about recruiting. And the first thing I tell them is, you've got to have your grades in order, or they're not even going to look at you anymore. Shane, as you know, these guys have only got so many scholarships, and if you're not qualified, they are not going to give you the time of day, are they?
That's very true. And Brent, we got somebody that did your homework assignment for you. Rick says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, the following are the 3 college teams who started the season unranked and finished the season as national champs. Clemson Tigers in 1981, the Miami Hurricanes in 1983, and the BYU Cougars in 1984.
Yeah. We figured BYU would be one of those. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So what's going on in Gainesville?
Well, Elijah Blades, a former Texas A&M senior, has transferred. So, look, if you played with an SEC school and you're transferring, a guy like that's got SEC experience. So you got to love that. Also, understand that Tyreek Sapp, who's a defensive lineman from St. Thomas Aquinas, is working to get into school, and they're hoping he will be there at some point in the fall. They've also added an offensive lineman from Clemson. Caleb Boating is heading to Gainesville, according to multiple reports. And Brenton Cox, who we've talked about a good bit. Dan Mullen mentioned this week that they expect to have him back. So hopefully that will be a real plus. One of the things I've heard a lot about this week, and it bears repeating, is Daquan Newkirk and Antonio Valentino. He changed his name. It was Antonio Shelton coming out of Penn State. So both those guys are run stuffers. Shane, I think this would be a major plus for Florida. I think back to the A&M game last year. If they would have been able to stop the run for A&M, I think that they would have won that game. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. So, Shane, I think Newkirk and Valentino are going to be real positive additions for them on the defensive line. I
think they're the 2 most important players that we have on this roster, because that was a huge weakness in the issues last year on defense. So that we need them to play well to have the kind of year we want to have on defense. All right, what's going on up in Athens with the Georgia Bulldogs?
That we've talked about wide receivers, Marcus Roseme, Jack Saint, who remember he had that awful ankle injury in the Florida-Georgia game. He has been cleared to come back to practice. Now, they still won't have George Pickens. He's going to be out most of the year. So it's really good to have Jack Saint back. Unfortunately, one of the coaches is out, Scott Cochran, who came over from Alabama. Remember, he was a strength and conditioning coach in Alabama. But Cochran is out, absent from the team. The only thing they're saying about that is that he's dealing with some health issues. So we don't know when that's going to happen. But in the meantime, they have promoted Will Muschamp to an on-the-field role. So that would be interesting to see where that goes. But I mean, there's still a tremendous amount of optimism and expectation for this Georgia team to be in the playoffs and beyond this year too.
It really is. We got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Metal Law. John asked, Brent, hearing we are in the running for another offensive lineman. Any word on that?
I want it now as far as a transfer. Now, if he's talking about, we just mentioned Caleb Boating of Clemson. I don't know if that may be who he's looking for. And Boating will begin his career as a walk-on. So that will be interesting. So I'm kind of guessing, and I may be wrong, but as far as what he's asking, but that's the latest thing that I've seen, Shane. Unless you've seen something in addition to that, as far as a lineman who might be coming in.
No, that's all. I've heard that as well. The Kentucky Wildcats, a lot of people like them for some reason. Seems like they do every year. But until they can complete a forward pass, I ain't buying on the Wildcats. What's going on up in Lexington?
Well, I would agree with that too. I mean, I know they've got some new offensive staff. Liam Cohen is in there. I think he'll do a pretty good job. Joey Gatewood, remember, who was from Jacksonville, went to Auburn and is now at Kentucky. He's in the running. Bo Allen is coming back this year, and they've got a transfer from Penn State, Will Levis, so they've got three quarterbacks. Can they find one out of that three? I mean, frankly, I'm pulling for Joey Gatewood because he's a Jacksonville kid, but it may not end up being Joey. But you're right. I mean, if they could ever get a quarterback, they would really be dangerous. Now, Mark Stoops, this is interesting, is now the longest tenured coach in Kentucky history, along with Fran Kersey. So I like Stoops. I think Stoops has really done a good job. Also, their outside linebacker, J.J. Weaver, tore his ACL last November. Stoops said this week that he's ahead of schedule, and they're hoping that he will be back sooner than later.
Yeah, Tim says he heard the Clemson kid never started a game. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he could be a really good player. I mean,
absolutely.
Clemson's a pretty good damn program.
Yeah, they sure are. Yes.
Yeah, so he doesn't mean he can't play somewhere else.
Exactly.
LSU. Brent, correct me if I'm wrong here. LSU goes into this season with a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator?
Yes, correct. And that will that's going to be interesting to see where that goes with them. I mean, look, they've absolutely got the talent. There's no doubt about that. But I'm going to be interested to see how this coaching staff kind of ends up working together with this. Now, a couple of things we need to know. Tyrone Davis Price, who's one of the running backs, has got I don't know what this is. They said he just got a camp injury. Any guesses what a camp injury would be, Shane? But that's what they described, and I thought that was rather humorous, frankly. Yeah. But and Eric Taylor, defensive lineman, he's a redshirt freshman. He is no longer on the roster. Now, Jake Pease is the offensive coordinator they're bringing in. He comes from the NFL, but from what I understand, he's never really called plays before, so that will be interesting. And then Durante Jones is going to be the D coordinator, replacing Bo Pelini, who was an absolute nightmare for them, and they really needed to make that move. Also, Max Johnson said that they're going to do a little more, and Shane can explain this better than me, some new waggles and bootlegs under Jake Pease for the quarterbacks, but it's still going to be a kind of the same scheme. Does that make sense, Shane?
Yeah, basically they're just going to try to move the pocket a little bit and probably get Max Johnson out on the edge a little bit. He's a pretty good little runner. If it's not open, he can tuck the ball and run a little bit. Mississippi State, a lot of people think they can win 8 games this year due to their schedule. I think it all depends on how they start the season. But we can plan on Will Rogers being the quarterback, right?
Yeah, maybe, and he's not. Mike Leach is not saying that yet, but every time he talks about the quarterback, he praises Will Rogers. So that may give you a little bit of clue about where they're heading at this point. So, but I don't know if they'll win 8. But look, if they could win, let's say they were 6-6. That'd be tremendous improvement for them because they would be a bowl game and they make 500. But look. We both know, Shane, he's going to have a quarterback, and the guy's going to be pretty confident, but certainly by the end of the year.
Yep. Lane Kiffin and those guys, they decided to take John Rice Plumlee, who could maybe be the fastest player in the SEC. They've now made him a permanent wide receiver. Correct.
Now, he had a decision to stay at either backup quarterback or move to wide receiver, and they've got him on the field. Plumlee is a real athlete. Plumlee is tremendous. I'm curious what you think about him.
Mm-hmm.
But look, Shane, when you got a guy that talented, you got to get him on the field, do you not?
Absolutely. He was a tremendous runner of the football. If you go back to his true freshman year when he had a couple 200-yard rushing games, really good runner, but just not consistent enough throwing the football.
Correct.
And so I think it's a great move. I think he's got a good relationship with Lane. If anybody follows Lane on Twitter, they're always joking with one another. So I think he will definitely cause some problems for defenses with him lined up. I mean, you got the double pass, you got all kinds of things you can do with him. Give us some news and notes on the Tennessee Vols.
Tennessee has got the offensive lineman, Kayron Calbert. This just sounds bad. Sustained a bicep injury during camp, so he potentially is lost for the season. That would almost be like a pectoral injury as far as, and I'm not a doctor, but you just can't overcome something like that quickly, and that's really unfortunate for him. Danny White, the athletic director, said that they're working with the NCAA on these recruiting violations. And it's funny, we mentioned this a few minutes ago, they're hoping to get some kind of resolution pretty quickly. Tennessee's still trying to find a quarterback. Joe Milton, Harrison Bailey, Hendon Hooker, who transferred from Virginia Tech, and Brian Marr, who we all saw play in the Swamp 2 years ago. So they've got several quarterbacks. By the way, they played Pitt on September the 11th. They're calling that the Johnny Majors Classic. That's pretty funny because of Johnny Majors' ties with Tennessee and with Pitt.
Yeah, that's very cool, no doubt. A&M, I think they have the best tight end in the league, and Weidermeyer. I think A&M's got a chance to win the league this year, but they got a couple players in trouble.
McKinley Jackson is a defensive lineman who's a freshman. He was arrested on drug charges last Friday morning. I mean, my goodness, they just started camp. He's already been arrested. Second-degree felony. You don't want to be a freshman and get in trouble basically your first day. And then they've got a freshman wide receiver, Damon Demas. They're hoping to have some big things out of him at this point. Now, he's been in some trouble, too, with a marijuana charge. But Jimbo Fisher says that he has had a foot injury. He's working hard to get back, that he's behaved himself. He's worked on his academics. So hopefully he will. But, man alive, Anaya Smith, Chase Lane, Weidermeyer, as we've said, boy, are they going to be good offensively. They find a quarterback.
Yeah, possibly. They got a lot of dudes vying for that job. Brent, I don't believe we talked with you since the passing of Bobby Bowden. I know you covered him. Just your thoughts on Bobby.
What a man. His Christian faith was certainly something to be admired. Stayed at FSU, made them a brand name. Covered him at many games. We'd be there long after midnight at Doak Campbell. That's when you could go in the locker room. And Shane, he'd have more energy than all of us put together trying to cover the team. He was in Clay County a few times. just had great respect for him. And I'll give Matt Hayes credit for this. I'll say this real quick. Bobby Bowden nearly took the job at Marshall. 2 years later, you had the Marshall plane crash that basically killed everybody, unfortunately, on the plane. One of the most awful accidents in college football history. And then he almost went to LSU. And he stayed at Florida State. Instead, they hired a guy named Bo Rain. Bo Rain never coached a game at LSU because he went on a recruiting trip, and the plane he was in went down in the Atlantic Ocean. So not once but twice, Bowden could have died in a plane crash. And he told Matt Hayes, he said, that could have been me. When I tell you I'm blessed, I mean it. So just an unbelievable story, wasn't it, Shane?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, Brent, great stuff as always, my man. We're getting closer and closer to kickoff. Enjoy your weekend, and can't wait to have you back on next week.
Me too, bud. Always a pleasure. Take care.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Make sure you can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beaird. Going to take our first time out of the program. We come back, we'll be joined by former defensive tackle from the national champion Florida Gators, Stephen Harris. And we will take a time out, come back, and be joined by him on the Titan More Hotline. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning.
Are you tired of being sidelined by nagging pain? Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer and Dance with the Stars champion. Happy to tell you about QC Kinetics and their biologic therapies for treating pain without drugs or surgery.
Are you suffering from chronic pain in your hips, knees, shoulder, or lower back? Are you tired of living with arthritis pain? QC Kinetics offers natural pain treatment that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints.
Listen, I know pain, and I've seen firsthand how powerful biologic therapies can be. Patients at QC Kinetics rave about their result because they're getting their lives back. They are getting moving again.
These exciting regenerative treatments used to be available only to pro athletes like Emmitt. Now they're available to anyone thanks to QC Kinetics. Call today for your free consultation.
Get long-lasting results from my friends at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. In North Central Florida, call 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, non-surgical regeneration, live pain-free. South State Bank, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Silverback Concrete Company. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us. Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Regal Cinemas, Bass Pro Shops, Nike, Le Macaron French Pastries, International Diamond Center, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, which is Gainesville's hottest new restaurant. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. I want to thank Brent for joining us on the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to go back to the Titan MR Hotline, and we're going to be joined by former defensive tackle, that's starting defensive tackle for the Florida Gator National Championship team, Stephen Harris. Good morning, Stephen. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Doing well. Stephen, when I bring former players on, I like to go back to your younger days. You grew up down in Coral Gables, down in the Miami Hurricane territory. Did you grow up a Hurricane fan and want to play for them? What made you sign with Ron Zook and the Gators?
Man, I don't even know if I could say this on this Gator channel, but I actually was a Florida State fan when I grew up. Well, my grandfather watched a lot of Florida State back in the day, so he had me watching Peter Warrick and Ward Dunn and those guys back then. So, I never was a Hurricane fan.
So when you initially signed with Ron Zook when you came to Florida,
Yes,
talk a little bit about Zooker. I've heard. I mean, he brought so many great players. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did with Urban took those players and won a national title. But just talk a little bit about what Ron Zook meant to you and what kind of coach he was.
Coach Zook was an awesome coach. He would be what we would call a player's coach. A lot of hype. He liked to get the players hyped up, and he was just willing to ride with you. He was one of those coaches that you could go to about anything, and he had your back. So I love Coach Zook, and I thankful for him bringing me aboard.
So you grew up a Florida State fan, but you ended up signing with the Gators. What visits did you take when you were coming out of high school?
I actually only took one visit going to Missouri, and I had no idea that other schools were recruiting me due to some things with my high school recruiting. I committed to Missouri, and Florida came in the last visit and swept me off of my feet.
I gotcha. We're speaking with Stephen Harris here on the Titan & More hotline. So, Stephen, whenever Zook gets fired and then Urban Meyer comes in, talk a little bit about that transition for you guys as a player.
Oh, man. Just Urban's record coming from where he was coming from, we knew that good coach. He had helped a lot of teams between Bowling Green and Utah turn their programs around. So as a player, we just kind of knew that we was expecting a little difference. But when Meyer got there, just his attitude and his demeanor was a lot different from Coach Zook. So it took a little adjusting to get to. Coach Meyer, he didn't play no games, man. He got right down to business, and he let us know off the rip soon he got there.
Steve, when you look back at your Gator career, is there one moment for you as a player that stands out in your mind? We tell all these war stories as we get older and older to kids and what have you. Is there one thing? What stands out in Stephen Harris's mind?
As far as a particular moment?
Yes.
My moment for me was probably the Auburn game, 2006. Losing to Auburn, man, it really didn't sit right with me. I just remember losing that game and then sitting on the field for like maybe 30, 40 minutes by myself on the bench, just in disbelief. That was one heck of a game, man. And we deserved to win that one, but we lost. But it turned our season around for us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's, anytime, sometimes they say sometimes you can lose a game. Well, it's good for a football team. It definitely was for you guys. Talk about, I got a text here on the Titan & More text line. It comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, Stephen, what former teammates do you stay in contact with the most?
I really stay in contact with Marcus Thomas, Jarvis Moss, Joe Corn, Ray McDonald, a lot of those guys.
Speaking of Jarvis Moss, do you think he had the biggest play of the year back in 2006?
The block heard around the world. Man, we talk about that play all the time. I actually just finished talking with him this morning, man. It was a great call between me, myself, Ray McDonald, and Jarvis, man, and just getting that play done. It changed our lives forever, man. That play go down one of the biggest plays in Gator history, man. You never get enough.
Agree. I agree, no doubt about it. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Stephen Harris, part of the National Championship team back in 2006. Speaking of the National Championship game, I was actually at that game on the sideline, Stephen, and it didn't start out great. Was it Ted Ginn that took back the opening kickoff?
Yeah, Ted Ginn.
Yeah, but going into that, they had the Heisman Trophy winner, Troy Smith, at quarterback. A lot of people didn't think Florida should be in that game for whatever reason. But you guys defensively whether it was Charlie Strong's plan, whatever y'all did. I mean, I don't know if I've seen a more impressive defensive performance. What was y'all's mindset leading up to that game?
To be honest with you, between Coach Strong and Greg Madison, those guys are fantastic coaches, man. They didn't let us watch film on them for maybe 2 weeks before the actual game. We know we had a month to prepare, but so when we put the film on in our defensive line and linebacker room, we kind of started laughing. We was like, these guys won't be able to hang with us. We're faster, we're quicker. We knew going into the game that we were going to beat snot out of them. It was just from practice, I could almost tell you almost every play they were going to run before they ran it, just from preparation. We were thoroughly prepared, and the coaches had us in great position, man.
Don has a question for you here on the Titan MR text line. He wants to know, Stephen, in your playing career with the Gators, who is the one offensive line / team that you did not like playing against?
Oh, man, I would probably have to say LSU, man. LSU offensive linemen were always huge. They were aggressive, but out of all the offensive line, I would say LSU. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. And I got a question for you. When you look back at all the talent on that team in 2006, and then obviously a couple years later, they win the national title again, which one of those two teams was the best team?
Oh, man. It made it hard. I would have to go with my 06 Gators. I think we were the veteran team. We had almost 20 seniors or something like that. I would go with the 06 Gators because we had Percy was sprinkled in there. He was on the team, and Tebow come in every now and then. So I will go with the 06 Gators.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Don't get mad.
Yeah. So, Stephen, let everybody know, I think you're part of a documentary about Coach Meyer and that national championship team. Tell everybody what's going on there. Correct.
There's a film production company out of Europe called Rock TV, one of the biggest film production companies in Europe. They're doing a documentary on the Gators called Tales from the Swamp. And it's just basically about the Gators and some stories that people never heard of, and kind of our backdrop of what the team was like going into the championship year, and adjusting to Coach Meyer and stuff like that.
So when will people be able to see this?
Probably be a year now. A year from now, it's still got some more filming to do and production. So maybe 2023, early 23.
Okay, good stuff. Jessica here on the Titan MR text line wants to know, Stephen, how do you think Charlie Strong is going to do in the NFL?
Whoa, man, I believe Coach Strong is going to do great in the NFL. Just schematically, he knows what he's doing. And if he can translate that over and have veteran players take over those, at least, I believe he's going to fare very well. I always loved this defense. He's a very, very smart coach, and I think he's going to have the right athletes to get the job done.
When you look at the job Dan Mullen's done, this will be year 4 for him. He's kind of got us back in the winning tradition. He was the offensive coordinator when you played. When you look at the defensive line play, I didn't think we were a stout defensive line last year. I thought we had guys out of position due to injuries or what have you. When you look at the defensive line going into this year, don't you think that's a critical part for this defense to get back to playing Florida Gator defense?
It's definitely critical. You hit the nail on the head. I kind of felt the same way the past 2 previous seasons about our defensive line. I just didn't think we were aggressive enough. I didn't think we had no shot to anybody else. But I think it was what we call a dog mentality. It's just those guys in the middle that that no matter what, they just gonna always be out there fighting fierce. I just think we were lacking a little bit of that from the defensive front. But we got some good transfers coming in. I'm looking forward to seeing the Valentino kid play, and Newkirk. And we still got some good young guys too with Dexter and Jalen. So I think we're going to be pretty decent at the defensive tackle position. I'm really, really excited about the Valentino kid, looking to see what type of havoc he can cause in the middle.
We had a Facebook Live here brought to you by Mellon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. John says, as one of Urban's former players, How will Urban do in Jacksonville, and does Urban cut Tebow?
Tebow actually makes the team, and he makes them better. I tell you that right now. Just on that fact alone, I didn't believe Tebow would come into Florida and do what he did, and he proved me wrong. And Tebow he's everything the world says about him. Probably one of the greatest guys I ever met in my life. He helps the program tremendously. Urban Meyer does a great job in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer knows all the X's and O's. He can give you a formula, and he can tell you why it's going to win. And when you got the top caliber players that NFL hosts, Urban's going to be successful.
Sharon wants to know here on the Titan MR text line, Stephen, how often do you get back to Gator games into Gainesville?
I haven't been in the past year, but I'm looking forward to being up there at almost every home game this year.
Yeah, hopefully, as of now, it's still going to be a packed house. Hopefully it stays that way. Everybody can get back to some normalcy. Stephen, let everybody know what you're up to these days.
Now I'm coaching high school. I help out with the defensive line at Carrollwood Day School here in Tampa. It's a private school. I also do music, and I do some mentoring.
And the head coach at Carrollwood Day, isn't he a former Tennessee Vol?
Coach Marshall. Yeah, Marshall McDuffie.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was a Tennessee Vol, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. So back to Coach Mullen. Just talk a little bit about the job he's done since he's come back.
Oh man, it's been a breath of fresh air. Just his excitement, and even the staff that he brings to the game with the strength and the conditioning coaches, bringing that high level of competition back to the Gators, having them compete at every position, and then just getting into recruiting and getting some of the best recruits in the world, man. It's been a big part of getting us turned around, and I can't thank Coach Mullen enough, man, bringing excitement back to Florida football. Yeah.
Well, Stephen, we appreciate you taking the time to join our program today. You still wear that national championship ring around town?
And listen, I got a whole mannequin at my house with the whole national championship uniform on it.
For real?
Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's good stuff, man. Well, hey, be safe, and hopefully we'll see you in Gainesville this season.
All right. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's Stephen Harris, former defensive tackle on the 06 national title team. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. Going to take our final time out of the program, come back, wrap up this Thursday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, non-surgical regeneration, live pain-free. South State Bank, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Carter Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, thinking forward. Remember, FDIC. Really want to thank Stephen Harris, former player, joining us on the Titan MR Hotline. Also, our college football analyst, Brent Beaird, does a phenomenal job. This Day in Sports brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Comfort Temp's now hiring team members with all levels of experience, great culture and benefits, and opportunity for growth. A $1,000 signing bonus for qualified positions. Give them a call today. That's Comfort Temp, 376-2366. Back in 1994, the first NFL game on the Fox network was played. It was an exhibition game between the 49ers and the Denver Broncos. And speaking of preseason football, we had the Hall of Fame game last week, but we are kicking off the preseason season. You got the Steelers and the Eagles play tonight, and then the Washington football team against the Patriots. And then a lot of games on Friday. Let's see when the Jags crank it up on Saturday at home against the Cleveland Browns. So we got 3 preseason games. We shall see what happens with a lot of these teams. You know, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, question mark, getting an MRI. I don't understand. If you get an MRI on your shoulder, it ain't good. So anyway, make sure you tune in tomorrow. Make sure you tell all your friends and family folks to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of the podcast platforms out there. Make sure you tell them to follow our program. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe and make sure you tune in tomorrow. Take care.